Hi there, my name is Whitney Nelson and I am the Texas Field Marketing Manager for CliffKid. And today we are going to show you guys how to install the swing arm and hitch rack for the new electric bike for the Snack Squad sampler platform. So we're going to start out with the swing arm, and the first thing I want to highlight is that there are 4 little holes here. The first one has a little mechanism inside, so you don't want that one. You're going to try to line up the holes on the hitch receiver with this second one closest to the inside. So that's the first one. This thing is really heavy, so it might take a little jiggling around. Then you're going to take your hitch lock that should have come with your hitch receiver and lock this bad boy into place. There you go. That way it is definitely locked onto the vehicle and nobody can walk away with it. The next thing I want to highlight is that right now, even though it's locked into place, it's still very jiggly. So there's a bolt right in here, and we're going to take the tools that you guys received, a little ratchet here, and just hand tighten it down so that it's super solid. The next thing I want to show you is that when you go to pull this guy out, it has a little locking pin here, and then over the top it's got a little wheel that you loosen up. You pull the locking pin out and it can swing around this way, and it swings around this way, and it allows for us to get the door completely open while the bike is actually on the rack. And then to put it back in place, you just need to line it up and lock down the wheel and make sure this guy's in place. And then you're good to go on that. So the next thing we're going to install is the actual bike rack, and the thing I want to point out on here is that there is a little U-shaped kind of piece inside here, and it's controlled by this lever down here. And so you want to just make sure that it is actually lined up in there when you go to install it into the hitch receiver. So you're going to take your second hitch lock and lock this guy into place. And this is the hitch lock that actually comes with the bike rack, so all of you should have that. Next, you're going to take your Allen wrench and you're going to crank down this little guy right there, just hand tight, so again it makes it really solid. And then you're going to go back to this lever arm and you're going to crank it down as tight as it needs to go. And you'll be able to tell if you were not able to get that little U-shaped thing in there. It won't tighten up, but you want to make sure that it does, because it's pulling this piece to that piece and making sure there's a good solid connection. So there you go. After that, you're going to want to take a close look at where these pins are holding up the rails. There is actually a little dog ear in the metal, and there's a dog ear on this pin. And so when you take it down and lock it back into place, you're going to want to get that dog ear in there in the right place, and then crank it down so that it's actually locked. And that goes for when you're pulling them down and when you're putting them back up. So get those in there, and then we will load the bike. So where the bike is concerned, the main thing you're going to want to pay attention to is that you do not want any of this action to be touching this bar over here. So if you have 2 people that are working an event, the preference will be to load the bike on the back side of the rack so that it's just that much farther away from getting rear-ended and totaled if anything were to happen, if you were back in it or something. If you're by yourself, you can definitely load it, but it is heavy. So you want to make sure that that is facing away from this middle arm, and you're going to get it, use some muscle and get it up in there. And so my recommendation is that you get the front wheel in first, and then you load the back wheel. Then, if you'll come around this way, the trick on getting it actually locked into place, this guy right here moves up and down, and you have to kind of lean the bike out towards you and maneuver this thing into place and then crank it down. You definitely want this to be down on the frame of the bike and not on top of the seat, because it's going to give you a more stable position. From there, we have these little Velcro straps for the wheels, and though they might seem kind of small and trivial, they're super important. So just make sure that you crank those down on both front and back tire. So after the bike is loaded, the last thing that you need to do, which is super important, is use you got this big huge lock that came with the rack, and so my recommendation is that you get it in there in 2 different places, and it's a perfect fit around this upper portion and then back behind the seat. And then you're gonna, this is key, this piece of the rack, so the swing arm is locked to the van with that hitch lock. The bike rack from here is locked to the swing arm with this hitch lock. But from this portion up, which is our most important, is only tied down by this bolt. So if somebody wanted to, they could absolutely come and take it if they were, traveling around with tools. So we want to make sure that we get this piece locked to the bike, and it's great because it gives it a little more security for travel. And then last but not least is that when you're traveling, please be sure to take this basket liner out, because what happens when you're driving, even though it's Velcroed in, is it will billow and it'll ruin the fabric. So that's it. Hopefully that was pretty self-explanatory. Hopefully you guys will have fun playing with it, and have a great day.